Welcome to the Advance Your Art podcast, where we talk about the journey from artist to entrepreneur and everything in between. You've worked hard to hone your craft. Now take it to the next level with tips, techniques, strategies, and routines used by successful artists to grow their businesses and careers. Now, let's get started and have some fun with your host, Yuri Cataldo.
Don, welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it again. Excellent. So for the listeners who are not familiar with who you are and what your work is, how do you describe yourself?
I'm a person of many interests. So I am an author of 9 books so far, with 3 more in the works. I am a publisher, and I have about 30 authors that work with me right now, and I'm a mother of 2.
Wonderful. Okay. So you first went to school for psychology. What made you want to study that?
Okay, it's all going to come out now. So I didn't have any money to go to college, is what it came down to. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. I wasn't sure. I just knew I wanted to go to college. So I applied for an ROTC scholarship, a military scholarship. Mm-hmm. And I was a math major for 3 years, actually. And then I got a D in Calc 4. So they decided I couldn't be a math major anymore. And I looked at what classes I had left, and I went, hey, I've got to be a psych major and only finish with an extra half year and keep my scholarship. That's really how I became a psych major.
Excellent. By default. That's good.
Yes, good. Yeah. But it's worked well for me, though.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good.
You use it for everything.
That's true. That's what I always hear, that psychology comes in handy, well, because we deal with people on a daily basis, so that makes perfect sense.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, so you were an ROTC. What did you do then after you graduated?
I went into the Air Force. I was a missile launch officer, which meant I sat down underground for 24 hours at a time, waiting for the call.
Waiting for the call from whom? Who was supposed to call you?
Well, thankfully nobody ever called me, but okay. In case something bad happened, yeah. I would be there to launch Minuteman 2s is what I worked on.
Okay.
Minuteman 2 missiles.
I'm not familiar with any kind of missiles. Are these like
are
these
sorry.
nuclear? What's okay? Nuclear weapons or just what? Tell me more about your missiles.
Intercontinental ballistic missiles.
Okay.
So really big ones.
Yes. All right. So you were underground waiting for that. Why did you choose to go into the Air Force versus the Army or Navy?
Oh, Air Force treats their people so much better.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's funny. And I've been, my last, 6 out of the last 10 years, I was joint, which meant I worked with all the different services. Uh-huh. And pretty much all the services will admit the Air Force treats their people better. I think it's because we're the newest service. And so the facilities are better, the housing's better. You know, when we go on temporary duty, we get better lodging. It's just one of those things.
Yeah. Wow.
Now I probably alienated everybody else.
Yeah, but that's okay though. So how long? Okay, so you're working in the Air Force underground. How long were you doing that role, and what did you end up doing for the Air Force?
Oh. I was there when they pulled the Minuteman 2s off alert. So I actually only did missiles for a couple years. Then I did protocol. I did public affairs for a little bit, which is like working the newspaper, the base newspaper. Mm-hmm. Then protocol, which is taking care of visitors, distinguished visitors, taking them on tours, general officers and stuff, ceremonies. Then I went to Korea. And I was a squadron section commander, which basically meant personnel, human resources kind of things, taking care of records, people. That's where I met my husband.
Okay.
In the A-10 squadron there. Then, Las Vegas, protocol, more personnel stuff. That part's not all that exciting. I did meet a lot of really, really cool people when I was doing protocol. The Secretary of Defense would come through, or Secretary of the Air Force, and we would take them on trips. A lot of foreign visitors. Mm-hmm. I think you want a career. But in my last couple of assignments, I got to work NATO, and I was working reserve issues for NATO. I got to teach other countries how we do things. I was a commander down in Norfolk of a joint unit, and my last assignment was at the Pentagon as a congressional liaison between the Secretary of the Air Force and Congress.
Oh, wow.
That was painful, just saying.
Why was that painful?
It's just, so frustrating. Everything moves so slow. You come up with these great ideas and you're like, yes, I'm going to get up there. I'm going to make a change. And then you see that change doesn't really happen with any kind of speed at all.
Oh, sure.
It's very painful.
That sounds like it'd be painful. So during this, I guess when during this time did you develop your interest in writing?
Then we go back to my first assignment. When I was Miss Launch Officer, I was one of the first females, and I had a stalker. I had somebody breaking into my house, messing with my phones. It was really creepy.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, and my friends would say, that's such a great story. You need to write that down. Because that's just how we are.
Yeah.
So I eventually wrote it down. It wasn't quite creepy enough. I had to kill off a few people, and I turned that into my first book, The Obsession. And then I thought I was done. I'm like, I don't have anything. You start with what you know. That's what I knew. I thought I was done. And people kept asking me for more Jackie Austin, because that's the main character. Okay. They wanted to know more about her. I'm like, I don't have anything. Then I got mad at my husband, and I killed him in the second book. So that's Wind the Clock. And that's when Jackie goes to Germany. She's working for the Inspector General's office.
Okay.
Which I did. She follows me through my assignments. And while she's there, there's a plane crash. It looks very similar to a scenario she wrote for an exercise, so she gets blamed for it and has to figure out who did it to get OSI off her case. OSI is like NCIS.
Okay,
You've heard of NCIS, right?
Yeah,
only for the Air Force.
Yes, exactly. And, only because of the TV show, but yes.
Exactly. That's the reason most people know what NCIS is.
Yeah. Oh, excellent.
So that's how I got started with the first two, and then they started coming a little bit faster.
Okay.
I tried a romance just because I wanted to try it. Mm-hmm. And it actually did really well, but I didn't write it initially under my own name because I was still active duty Air Force, and I just didn't want anybody working for me to read anything romantic that I wrote. So sure. I released it initially under a pseudonym, and then and I won an award. I won a bronze award. I was very excited about that, but I didn't know what to do with that since it wasn't under my name. I'm getting ready to re-release it, and it's called Untimely Love.
Ooh, okay.
So
what's
be out.
That about?
It's not military at all.
Okay.
But Jamie is living and working in Washington, D.C., and things are going great with her work life. She's having a good time. She's meeting people, moving up in the company, but not so much in her personal life. Mm-hmm. Then she meets Ben, and she has to decide whether to go for it or to wait and bide her time. I'm not going to tell you anymore. You'll have to read it.
Excellent.
But I'm re-releasing that, and it should be out within a month.
Okay. Wonderful.
And that'll be under my name this time.
Okay. For real this time. That's good.
For real.
So you've written, I think, what's like nine books so far, and it sounds like the first couple, when you were, I guess, getting your start, have a similar connection to your career, and then you kind of have verged off of that. What made you want to try different genres? Because you've got romance, mystery, nonfiction, as well as a softball series, which I believe is for it's written
Middle
more
grade.
for a younger audience. What made you want to jump around from different genres?
I actually think it follows my personality. I get bored easily, so I like to try a lot of new things, try different things. And the Air Force worked wonderful for me for that reason, because I could switch every time I moved bases. I got a different job. I got to try something different. So I'm finding that's what's happening with my writing as well. And I'm actually working on the third Jackie Austen book, and then I'll be done with that, with the mysteries. I'm working on a cozy. And I'm working on my first fantasy book, a dragon book. I'm not very far into that. I'm just working that.
Sure. Could you did you say a cozy?
Yeah, a cozy mystery.
Oh, a cozy mystery. Okay. For some reason I thought it was something else. Okay. So you've got all those. When you were originally in the military traveling around, did you start a new book when you were in a new location, or did those have nothing to do with you moving around and changing jobs?
It didn't really have anything to do with me moving around.
Okay, fair enough. So what's your writing process like? Do you have a set time of day where you go about writing your books? How do you set up, I guess, your day for success, and do you outline them ahead of time, or just what's your basic look like?
I think I break all the rules, because they say that you should set down the same time every day and write, and I just don't. It doesn't fit my personality. I write when I have the time. So usually a weekend will be great. If I have a getaway, if we're going on a car ride and my husband's driving, I will write in the car. I like to write at night rather than in the morning, because I am not a morning person at all. I do not outline, not really. I kind of have an idea where I'm going when I start, but like Wind the Clock, the second Jackie Austen book, it totally ended differently than I expected. It did. I'm telling you, characters take on their own, personality. They go their own way. When you're writing the dialogue, they say something and you go, yeah, that's totally them, but dang, that's not going to work for the ending. So then you have to change things. I know.
That's interesting. So you're the first writer I've chatted with who's either admitted this or realized this, because a lot of the other writers I've chatted with have been more rigid with that. So with that, how do you track your characters then when they start evolving and changing like this?
Well, I do have a Word document that I put my descriptions of my characters in there.
Okay.
So little tidbits about them, I'll put it aside. Some people use note cards, or they'll put it up on their wall or whatever. I've got 2 screens on my computer, so I like having my second one open, and I just keep notes there, who they're related to and all that. Depending on which books you're working on, it makes more of a difference. So my Lady Tiger series is written for like 2nd through 6th grade. And that's the softball book that you're talking about.
Okay.
And keeping those characters straight is harder, because they have to be straight across all the series.
Sure.
It's the same girls, but like only 3 are really in the forefront for each book, and they change. So actually my younger daughter, Paige, who is 17, and she wrote one of the Lady Tiger books. She helped me write all the descriptions for the kids. And I don't mean just what they look like, but it's also who's their best friend, what's their favorite ice cream, do they have brothers and sisters, are their parents married or divorced, all those things. And we actually have them up. They have little softball cards on the website, so you can go in and read about my characters. But Paige helped me organize all that. It was wonderful.
Well, yeah. So in your process, when did you decide that you wanted to start your own publishing company?
Right after I wrote the obsession right after I finished it, because, this was a number of years ago, and